The wedding invitation lay crumpled in Olivia's trembling hands, her mother's voice echoing through the phone. "Darling, I've told the entire family about your successful husband and your perfect life in the city. We can't wait to meet him at your cousin's wedding tomorrow." Olivia's stomach dropped as the lie she'd maintained for 3 years came crashing down around her. What her mother didn't know was that there was no husband, there never had been. And now, with less than 24 hours before she'd face her entire judgmental family, Olivia was about to make a decision that would change her life forever. But could she have possibly imagined that the solution to her problem would come in the form of a single father with 2 children and a proposal that would turn her carefully constructed world upside down? Olivia Bennet stared at her reflection in the coffee shop window, her long silky hair cascading over her shoulders as she rehearsed what she'd say to her family. At 32, she had built a successful career as an architect in New York, but according to her traditional family in small-town Georgia, a woman's true success was measured by her marriage. 3 years ago, tired of the constant questioning, she had invented a husband, a surgeon named James who was always conveniently away at medical conferences whenever family gatherings occurred. The lie had spiraled, with Olivia sending photoshopped holiday cards and fabricating romantic anniversary stories. Now, with her cousin's wedding tomorrow and her entire family expecting to finally meet her elusive husband, she was desperate. "I need a husband by tomorrow," she muttered to herself, not realizing she had spoken aloud until a deep voice responded from behind her. "That's quite the shopping list." Olivia turned to find herself looking into the amused eyes of a stranger sitting at the table next to hers. He was undeniably handsome with an athletic build, fair skin, and dark hair that fell slightly across his forehead. But it was his smile, slightly crooked and impossibly charming, that caught her attention. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "But that's not something you hear every day." Embarrassed, Olivia found herself explaining her predicament to this stranger, words tumbling out in a rush. "My family thinks I've been married for 3 years to a successful surgeon, and now they're expecting to meet him at my cousin's wedding tomorrow, and she stopped, realizing how ridiculous she sounded. The man studied her for a moment, then extended his hand. "I'm Ethan Parker. Single dad, architect, and apparently, your potential husband for a day." What Olivia couldn't have known then was that Ethan had his own reasons for offering to help, reasons that would soon test both their hearts in ways neither could have anticipated. And as their pretend relationship began to feel increasingly real, they would both be forced to confront the walls they'd built around their hearts. "So you'll live at my place," Ethan said casually, as if suggesting nothing more consequential than sharing a cab. "Just until after the wedding. It'll be easier to convince your family if we know basic details about each other's lives." Olivia nearly choked on her coffee. "Live at your place? I don't even know you." "You need a husband with a believable backstory by tomorrow," Ethan pointed out reasonably. "I have a guest room, 2 kids who are currently with their grandmother for the weekend, and apparently nothing better to do than help a beautiful stranger with an elaborate deception." His eyes twinkled with mischief. "Unless you have a better plan?" She didn't. Which is how, 3 hours later, Olivia found herself standing in Ethan's spacious Brooklyn brownstone, surrounded by children's toys and family photos, wondering what she had gotten herself into. "My wife died 3 years ago," Ethan explained quietly as he showed her around. "Cancer. Emma was 5 and Liam was just 2. He picked up a framed photo of a beautiful woman with a radiant smile. "The kids and we're doing okay now, but it's been a journey." Olivia felt a pang of shame for her trivial problems compared to what this man had endured. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have dragged you into my ridiculous situation." "Actually," Ethan said, setting down the photo, "it's nice to think about something else for a change. And the kid's grandmother has been pushing me to get back out there for months. This might get her off my back for a while. If you're enjoying this unexpected journey of 2 strangers coming together under unusual circumstances, hit that like button and let me know in the comments if you've ever told a white lie that spiraled out of control." As evening fell, they sat at Ethan's kitchen table, creating their "How We Met" story and memorizing details about each other's lives. Olivia learned that Ethan was also an architect, specializing in sustainable design, that his son Liam was allergic to peanuts, and that his daughter Emma was obsessed with space exploration. "So, we met at a conference on urban sustainability," Ethan suggested, refilling their wine glasses. "You were presenting on green retrofitting for historical buildings, and I was so impressed I asked you to coffee." "Which turned into dinner," Olivia continued, warming to the story, "which turned into us talking until the restaurant closed. I knew you were special when you started sketching building designs on the napkins," Ethan added with a smile that made Olivia's heart flutter unexpectedly. "And I knew you were different when you talked about your kids before your work," she replied softly. Something shifted in the air between them, a moment of genuine connection that caught them both by surprise. Ethan cleared his throat and stood up abruptly. "It's getting late. You should get some rest before meeting the family tomorrow." As Olivia lay in Ethan's guest room that night, surrounded by Emma's space posters and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, she wondered about the strange turn her life had taken. She had come seeking a fake husband for a day, but found herself drawn to the real man and the life he had built. What would happen after tomorrow, when the charade was over? What she couldn't know was that Ethan was lying awake too, wondering the same thing, and that the wedding would bring challenges neither of them had anticipated, including an unexpected guest who threatened to unravel everything. Morning arrived with chaotic energy as they prepared for the wedding. Ethan looked devastatingly handsome in his charcoal suit, and Olivia caught him staring more than once as she slipped into her emerald green dress. "You look beautiful," he said simply, helping her with the clasp of her necklace, his fingers lingering on her neck a moment longer than necessary. The drive to Georgia was filled with playful banter as they refined their story and quizzed each other on details. "Favorite food?" Ethan asked. "Thai green curry, extra spicy," Olivia answered. "Yours is homemade lasagna, but only your mother's recipe." "Impressive," he nodded. "First date?" "The High Line, followed by dinner at that little Italian place in Chelsea." "Which is called?" "Bella Notte," she replied confidently. "And we shared the tiramisu." "You're good at this," Ethan remarked, his eyes briefly leaving the road to meet hers. "Almost too good. Makes me wonder what other elaborate fictions you've created." "Just the one," Olivia said quietly. "And I never expected it to go this far." Ethan's hand found hers across the console. "We'll get through this. And then." He didn't finish the sentence, and Olivia didn't press him. The "and then" hung between them, full of possibilities neither was ready to name. The wedding venue was a picturesque southern plantation, dripping with Spanish moss and old-world charm. As they pulled up, Olivia's anxiety returned full force. "They're going to see right through us," she whispered, gripping Ethan's hand. "No, they won't," he assured her, bringing her hand to his lips in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. "Because from this moment on, we're not pretending. For today, this is real. I'm your husband, you're my wife, and we're madly in love. Simple as that." Before she could respond, a shrill voice called out, "Olivia. Darling. Is that him? Is that finally the mysterious James we've heard so much about?" Olivia froze. In her panic about finding a fake husband, she had completely forgotten that she'd named him James, not Ethan. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering how they'll handle this first major hurdle, double tap that like button and subscribe to catch all our stories of love, deception, and unexpected connections. What followed was a masterclass in improvisation as Olivia smoothly explained that James was Ethan's middle name, which he preferred using professionally, while friends and family called him Ethan. Her mother, Margaret, seemed satisfied with this explanation, though her eyes narrowed slightly as she assessed the man beside her daughter. "Well, Ethan James," Margaret said, emphasizing both names, "we've waited 3 years to meet you. I was beginning to think Olivia had made you up entirely." Ethan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I've been looking forward to meeting you too." Olivia talks about her family constantly. He slipped his arm around Olivia's waist, drawing her close. Though she didn't mention how much she looks like her mother. Now I see where she gets her beauty. Margaret visibly melted at the compliment, and Olivia shot Ethan a grateful look. As they made their way through the crowd of relatives, Ethan charmed everyone they encountered, remembering details about family members Olivia had mentioned during their crash course the night before. Uncle Robert. Olivia tells me you're quite the fisherman. I'd love to hear about that marlin you caught last summer. Aunt Judith. Those must be your famous lemon squares. Olivia recreated your recipe for me once, but she says they never quite match up to yours. By the time the ceremony began, Olivia was beginning to relax. They found their seats, and as the bride walked down the aisle, Ethan's hand found hers again, their fingers intertwining naturally. She glanced at him, surprised to find him already looking at her, his expression soft and contemplative. "What?" she whispered. "Just thinking that some lies lead to unexpected truths," he murmured, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. The reception was in full swing when the complication Olivia had been dreading finally materialized in the form of her cousin Vanessa, the family gossip with a memory like a steel trap. "Olivia!" Vanessa exclaimed, air-kissing both cheeks. "And this must be James. Or is it Ethan?" Her smile was sharp. "Funny, I distinctly remember you saying your husband was a pediatric surgeon at Mount Sinai. Yet Ethan here tells us he's an architect like you. Quite the career change, isn't it?" The music seemed to fade as Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. This was it, the moment her elaborate lie would finally unravel, humiliating her in front of her entire family. But then Ethan stepped forward, his expression serious but calm. "Actually, Vanessa, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was never a surgeon, that must have been Olivia's ex before me. We met shortly after that relationship ended, when she was still healing from the breakup." He turned to Olivia, his eyes conveying a silent message, "Trust me. Remember, sweetheart? You were so heartbroken after James left. You threw yourself into your work, which is how we met at that architecture conference." His voice softened. "You were so determined never to date again, it took me months to convince you to give us a chance." Olivia stared at him, amazed at how effortlessly he had rewritten their story to account for the discrepancy while making her sound sympathetic rather than deceitful. "Yes," she said slowly, finding her voice. "That's right. I guess I never corrected the misunderstanding because it was painful to talk about." Vanessa's triumphant expression faltered. "So you've been lying to the family all this time?" "Not lying," Ethan interjected smoothly. "Just protecting her heart while it healed. And I'm grateful she did, because otherwise, we might never have found each other." He looked at Olivia with such convincing adoration that for a moment, even she believed their story. The tension dissipated as other relatives joined the conversation, and soon Vanessa drifted away, temporarily neutralized but clearly not entirely convinced. As the evening progressed, Olivia found herself relaxing into her role as Ethan's wife, their bodies gravitating toward each other naturally on the dance floor, their laughter genuine as they shared private jokes. "You saved me back there," she murmured as they swayed to a slow song, her head resting against his shoulder. "That's what husbands do," he replied with a smile she could hear in his voice. "Even temporary ones." The reminder of their arrangement's temporary nature sent an unexpected pang through Olivia's chest. Tomorrow, they would drive back to New York, and this fantasy would end. She would return to her solitary apartment, and Ethan would go back to his life with his children. The thought left her feeling hollow. What neither of them realized was that Margaret had overheard part of their conversation with Vanessa and was now watching them with calculating eyes, piecing together inconsistencies in their story. And as the night wore on, she was formulating a test that would either confirm her suspicions or put them to rest once and for all. This story of deception and unexpected connection is just getting started. If you're loving Olivia and Ethan's journey, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. As the reception wound down, Margaret approached them with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Ethan, dear, we simply must have you and Olivia stay the night. It's too late to drive back to the city, and we have so much catching up to do. Besides, I've prepared the guest room specially." Alarm bells rang in Olivia's head. The guest room at her parents' house contained numerous childhood photos of her, photos a real husband of 3 years would certainly have seen before. "That's very kind, Mrs. Bennet," Ethan began, "but we've already—" "Please, call me Margaret," she interrupted. "And I insist. It would mean so much to have my daughter and son-in-law under our roof, even if just for one night." The trap was set, and they both knew it. Refusing would only increase Margaret's suspicions. "We'd love to," Olivia said finally, squeezing Ethan's hand in silent communication. One more night of pretending. One more test to pass. The drive to her parents' house was tense, with Olivia frantically briefing Ethan on what to expect. "There are photos of me everywhere, awkward teenage years, braces, terrible haircuts. You'll need to act like you've seen them all before." "Relax," Ethan said, his voice calm and steady. "I've got this. And honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing teenage Olivia with braces." Despite her anxiety, Olivia found herself smiling. "You're enjoying this way too much." "Maybe I am," he admitted, his expression turning more serious. "Maybe I'm enjoying being your husband more than I expected to." Before she could process what he meant, they arrived at her childhood home, a charming colonial with a wraparound porch. Margaret was waiting, eager to show Ethan around while Olivia's father, Robert, poured drinks in the study. As predicted, Margaret led them on a tour that lingered suspiciously long in front of every embarrassing photo from Olivia's youth. To Olivia's amazement, Ethan not only acted familiar with the photos but added details she hadn't briefed him on. "This one's my favorite," he said, pointing to a photo of 16-year-old Olivia in a science fair, her hair in a messy ponytail as she stood proudly next to a volcano model. "It captures her perfectly, brilliant, focused, and not caring what anyone thinks about her passion. That's the woman I fell in love with." Margaret studied him carefully. "You seem to know my daughter very well." "Not as well as I'd like to," Ethan replied honestly, his eyes finding Olivia's across the room. "She surprises me every day." Something in his tone made Olivia's heart race. Was he still acting, or was there truth in his words? Later, as they prepared for bed in the guest room, the awkwardness they had managed to avoid all day finally surfaced. "I can sleep on the floor," Ethan offered, grabbing an extra pillow. "Don't be ridiculous," Olivia said, though her voice lacked conviction. "The bed is plenty big enough for both of us. We're adults. We can handle this." They lay side by side in the darkness, careful not to touch, the silence between them filled with unspoken thoughts. "Thank you," Olivia whispered finally. "For today. For everything." "You don't need to thank me," Ethan replied, his voice low. "I haven't enjoyed myself this much in a long time." She turned to face him, though she could barely make out his features in the dim light. "Why did you really agree to this? You could have just laughed at the crazy woman in the coffee shop and gone about your day." Ethan was quiet for so long that Olivia thought he might have fallen asleep. Then he sighed. "After Sarah died, I threw myself into being the best father I could be. Work and the kids became my whole world. My mother-in-law keeps telling me it's time to rejoin the living, but the thought of dating again, of letting someone new into our lives." He paused. "When you said you needed a husband for a day, it felt safe. No expectations, no real vulnerability. Just pretend for a day and then go back to normal." "And now?" Olivia asked, her heart pounding. "Now I'm not sure I want to go back to normal," he admitted softly. "Being with you today, even if it was just pretend, it reminded me of something I'd forgotten." What's that? How it feels to want someone in your life. Not just need them for practical reasons, but want them there because everything is better when they're around. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. Before she could respond, a floorboard creaked in the hallway outside their door. They both froze, then quickly shifted closer together, Ethan's arm coming around her just as the door cracked open and Margaret peered in. "Just checking if you need extra blankets," she said innocently, though her eyes narrowed at the sight of them cuddled together. "We're fine, Mom," Olivia replied, trying to sound natural despite her racing heart. "Good night." After Margaret left, neither of them moved away immediately. The pretense had become a refuge, an excuse to be close. "We should get some sleep," Ethan said finally, though his arm remained around her. "Tomorrow will be another performance." "Right," Olivia agreed, but made no move to pull away. Instead, she found herself relaxing against him, her head finding a comfortable spot on his shoulder. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, wife," he murmured, the words sending an unexpected warmth through her. If this unexpected connection between two strangers pretending to be in love is melting your heart, hit that like button and share with someone who believes in second chances. Morning brought the smell of coffee and the sound of hushed voices from downstairs. Olivia woke to find herself still nestled against Ethan, his arm protectively around her. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine this was real, waking up beside him every day, sharing quiet mornings and gentle touches.